Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another reaction video with the one and only. Today we have a video to react to. The truth about parasocial relationships. To be perfectly honest, I've heard this term thrown around a little bit, but I didn't really dive into the concepts, the definitions. I've only heard about it from the one and only NMP LOL. I've heard the term through like the comments, and they've said it in some of their thumbnail videos, and I'm like, well, what is this topic? What's going on here? What's it about? So we have a reaction video that we're gonna hop into. We're gonna react to a little bit, and then we're going to share our thoughts. Let's hop in.
You guys have been requesting a video on parasocial relationships for a while now, and I never really had an interest in this topic until something that happened very recently, which we'll get into in a sec. So I'm finally going to share my thoughts on parasocial relationships, what they are, how they look like, and honestly, you might not like what I have to say about it, so let's get into it. The term parasocial relationships was first coined by Horton and Wool in 1956 to describe an illusory or imaginal relationship that a viewer or an audience member has with a public figure, such as a musician, a celebrity, an actor, a content creator. It's one directional, where the person consuming that public figure's whatever has concocted a relationship in their head, and the public figure basically has no idea who they are. Now, we typically think of this as a modern day issue, but it's been around since ancient Rome when they had public speakers. Yes, it's definitely gotten more of a hot topic with the rise of social media, but make no mistake, this isn't something new. And the reason for that is that we're all prone to parasocial relationships. When we relate to the barista who gives us our coffee every day, even though we don't actually know them when we're not that close to them. When we grow attached to a fictional character and we get really sad when they get killed off. When we get angry at a celebrity or we really empathize with them and we've never actually met them. When we feel like we're friends with a content creator. We're all prone to parasocial relationships because on some level we're programmed to have them. We're programmed to bond with people, and our mind doesn't really distinguish between what's real and what's imaginary very well. And I actually think this is kind of a good thing, because our ability to relate to people even though we've never met them, and our ability to empathize with people and humanize them, is a really good thing. There are some people out there who will literally just dehumanize public figures, who don't see them as real and go on and bully them and harass them because they're forgetting that that's a real person on the other side of the screen. I think having the ability to form a parasocial relationship is much better than that. But online parasocial relationships get a really bad rep. And modern research suggests that they're not actually just unhealthy. You can have a healthy parasocial relationship, or it can veer into unhealthy. So a healthy parasocial relationship a lot of times is born out of loneliness, isolation, not having a group to belong to, not having friends in your real life, and viewing someone you've never actually met kind of like a proxy for connection. Have you guys ever seen the movie Lars and the Real Girl with Ryan Gosling? It's a really psychologically fascinating movie. And in that movie, Lars, the main character, forms a delusional attachment to a doll, like a blow-up doll. Because in that moment, the doll is a transitional object for him. He doesn't have any connection in his real life. He's had a trigger for grief that he never previously resolved. And he needs to work through that, through the transitional object, before he's ready to go out in the real world and form real relationships. I think of parasocial relationships as kind of similar to that. We live in a very lonely world. A lot of people don't have friends, haven't dated anyone. That energy has to go somewhere. And if you can practice that friendship and companionship and intimacy in your mind, as long as you don't detach from reality and think that it's real, and as long as you do then transition onto real relationships, that can be a good thing. It can be you working through your issues.
I don't disagree with that at all. I do think that the scary part with practicing those types of bonds and connections, but like in your head, because you don't have like someone in front of you to actually you don't have those connections in real life. I do think that it's to a certain extent it's okay, but I do think that it can get carried away, and I feel like where it starts to fall off the deep end, and people just kind of fall down that rabbit hole. It's where that's their default. That's all they can do. What she said was pretty interesting, because it's like one of those dark realities, about the world, is that like the world is a lonely place, and typically, like typically that's something that I would say, and that's something that I've seen countless times. I mean, you could be in a room with 100 people and still feel lonely, neglected, not paid attention to, and vice versa.
So studies show that parasocial relationships can result in a sense of companionship and comfort and security. Like I said, it also reflects our ability to relate to other people, to empathize with them, to feel for them, even though we're not close with them. It shows that our ability to relate to others is intact, which is a good thing. And also, I think parasocial relationships can facilitate self-development. Like there are a lot of YouTubers that I follow, for instance, who I've learned a lot from, but just by listening to them talk about different aspects of their lives, their business, their relationships, it's helped me learn some lessons too. Of course, I don't know these people. I'm not their friend. I am not going to reach out to them to try to be their friend. But their personality has, even through the screen, had an effect on my personality, and I'm grateful for that. Now, where parasocial relationships start to become unhealthy, definitely if it's interfering with your day-to-day life, if it's impairing your functioning in some way, like if you are choosing to be obsessed with your favorite celebrity instead of going out and hanging out with friends or actually dating somebody who you have a shot with. Or if you're getting into fights because you're constantly defending whoever you stan. If it's
That is interesting, that she said that. The part where we're gonna say Anna, if that's okay. Trying to identify a person that you have that shot with, that's a whole nother battle, right? Because quite often people are always chasing the one thing that they can't have. Instead of trying to work things out with with people where they actually do have options. If you're able to take that chance, if you're able to identify a person that you can take that chance with, but most importantly, if you can also recognize that there is mutual attraction, and that mutual attraction is not wavering or not shaky, then I think that that's great. However, there are some situations, and I feel like unfortunately in the world that we live in, and with social media and everything, I see that there are a lot of people that are entertaining options and partaking and indulging in situations just to prevent themselves from being lonely. But that's another topic. Let's continue.
repeatedly causing you distress, I think it's okay to every now and then feel a painful emotion spurred by somebody that we don't actually know, somebody who's a public figure. Of course, we often displace and project our issues onto public figures, but if it's happening very often, then that's not healthy.
Hey, there's a pharmaceutical commercial coming on!
If the public figure is exercising undue influence, meaning if they're somehow manipulating you or convincing you to, I don't know, to do something that they want, or like give them all your money, or vote for a certain political candidate, or join their cult or whatever, that's when it gets unhealthy also. And especially if it's turning into a delusion or an obsession. If you lose sight of the fact that this is an imaginary relationship, then it ceases to become healthy. It's okay to, in your heart, feel a connection with people you haven't actually met before or aren't that intimate with. What's not okay, and what you should be very mindful of, is forgetting that that is all just imaginary, that there isn't an actual relationship there, that this person doesn't know you, isn't close with you, that you are essentially fabricating a relationship. And I think they also get unhealthy when we idealize or devalue public figures, when we either think that they're, the greatest prophet of all time and we're doxing their critics online, or when we completely devalue them by canceling them or threatening them or things like that. Now,
That's one of the things that I found out pretty interesting when it came down to what they call cancel culture, where Twitch streamers, YouTubers, celebrities, all alike. And it's for me, you do see that there comes a time where social media has incredible power and incredible influence over someone else's livelihood, especially when their life and their platforms are all online. And when people kind of get in their feelings and then they say, oh, you're not the person I thought you were, I don't agree with the way that you do things. Oh, I don't like that you said this one thing 5 years ago. And to see people get canceled, like, it's insane to me.
Here's the part that you might not like to hear me say. I think online people talk about parasocial relationships quite often as if it is the public figures who are to blame for their viewers' inappropriate behavior. And while I think that there are some pretty rare occasions where public figures do sort of stoke the flames of their fans' obsessions, like I said, that's pretty rare. Most of the time, I think this discussion kind of veers into victim blaming of the public figure. It is our responsibility as consumers of whatever form of media to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand, to make sure that we don't lose touch with reality or behave inappropriately with other people, or make sure that those parasocial relationships don't become unhealthy and extreme. A few examples of how public figures can sometimes encourage that kind of unhealthy parasocial behavior is, for instance, public figures who constantly make their viewers or subscribers or whatever feel like they're friends. Like, oh, hey, we're friends here, or we're part of the same pack. Like, I'm your friend, usually because they want your money. A really good example of this is when people go on these content creator trips together. That is the epitome of a parasocial relationship being fueled. When people date fans, I think that veers into parasocial. I mean, sure, you could say, well, okay, initially it's a one-sided relationship, but once the public figure engages with the fan, it becomes bi-directional. Yes, but you're starting off with a pretty huge power discrepancy. You're starting off with one person who has already fabricated a relationship with this person in their head. You cannot start a healthy relationship based on a fabrication as the foundation. Even if you go on to develop an actual relationship, it cannot be like this person is your fan. I think there's a difference between somebody dating like a fan who's obsessed with them versus one content creator reaching out to another content creator because they have things in common and deciding to become friends. Those things are different. One of them has a huge power discrepancy and an unhealthy parasocial relationship, and the other is just starting off as a parasocial relationship on an even playing field and becoming an actual relationship. Or another example of people kind of stoking the flames, I've heard this Taylor Swift quote, "I need you guys very much for my well-being." I would put that as like a little bit dubious, to say a little bit stoking the flames. But here's what's not an unhealthy parasocial relationship. Responding to a viewer or fan or whatever, either online or in person, with courtesy and warmth, the same level of politeness and kindness that you would give to anybody that you see throughout your day. That doesn't make it unhealthy. Publicly sharing about your personal life, that's not necessarily unhealthy. Feeling happy or sad for somebody whose journey you followed along, that's not unhealthy. Basically anything that you would do in real life. If you're going about your days, you see somebody crying on the sidewalk, of course, as a decent human being, you're going to go up to them and ask them, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? Just the same, if you see somebody who you follow on social media who's posted about something tragic that's happened, I think it's perfectly healthy to comment something like that. Like, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Or just the same as you're like friendly with the supermarket cashier. If a celebrity is equally friendly with a fan of theirs, that is not necessarily unhealthy. They're just being a decent human being. I think if a viewer or fan or whatever you want to call them develops an unhealthy attachment to a public figure, unless the public figure has done something to actually bring on an unhealthy attachment to them, that is the viewer's responsibility to work through and figure out. I say this so often on this channel, we are not responsible for the feelings or the actions of other people. People don't deserve to be on the receiving end of unhealthy parasocial attachments just because their job requires them to be a public figure. And I realize I'm probably biased about this because honestly, I have had scary experiences like that. I do have subscribers who occasionally get really angry at me for not responding to their message or their comment, who sometimes create countless other accounts from which to harass me for it.
I've actually had I've had a viewer do that to me. The reality of it all is, you can't please everyone. And, when you're live, people can tune in, they can comment, they can say whatever they want. All they have to do is click OK to say, yeah, I agree with the rules, and then their real intentions come out. Now, when it comes down to parasocial relationships, when a content creator decides to entertain a viewer, date a viewer, or when from content creator to another content creator. Intention is always key. Intention and I have to say communication in a general aspect. Now there is a part of communication where deception can come into that, but it falls back on a person's intentions, and whether or not that their intentions are good, true, genuine, or mischievous. It is their intention is key in those situations. Can these relationships work? Yeah, but your intention matters more than what you may think. To end the video off, and I'll just, once again, I'll just hop into it a little bit. I know the what is it? The OTK is like a media group. And for me, I know that a lot of people look at Nick, aka NMP LOL. They look at him and then they see, the girls that he brings on his streams, and people kind of get involved. On one hand, it's entertaining. On the other hand, you sometimes you have more questions than you have answers. I just hope that at the end of the day, even outside of Nick, because it isn't just about that. It's about anyone that has little interesting situations going on, and then they have a lot of people involved, and kind of like that. They're consuming that content. I would just say, like, just be real, and be real, have fun, do what you want to do, and just, be true. But once again, when all is said and done, the intention is the only thing that matters. And if people, intention and communication, like communication is key. Parasocial relationship, an illusory, imaginal relationship that a viewer has with a public figure. Let me know what that means to you guys, and let me know if you have any examples of any healthy and unhealthy parasocial relationships. We will see you guys in the next reaction video. Shout out to Dr. Anna. We will see you later, ladies and gentlemen. You guys take care.